think we're live. Let's begin, shall we? Alright, we can leave you there in case I get any kind of message. I guess we can see if this is actually picking me up. Check, check. 1, 2. Alright. And away we go. Alright, nobody in the stream right now, but for anybody that's watching the recording, today we've practiced, we've done our first time. Let's get efficient. Alright. So most people don't need to make a new page or even homepage from scratch, but a lot of us have to edit those elements, especially with our changing times. We need to update graphics information. So one of the things I want to do is show you what each of those elements are. And frankly, the easiest way is to make it from scratch. So let me also pull up my little guide for myself. Our previous stream we went ahead, I believe we walked through making a new page, but if we didn't, we're about to do that just now. Yes, thank you, dismiss. Guides. Nope. You know, we'll have one of these go completely smoothly once. Alright, so we're going to get started. New page. Simply log into the common spot. Remember, that login is going to be cms.american.edu/login. Usual credentials, you sign in, and you're good to go. New page, right. So we're going to click New Page. We're going to select OCL. We're going to keep all the stuff hidden. You guys will not be able to necessarily access it unless it's in your specific subsite. I'm going to work on finding a way that I can share this with you all. Name, remember that is going to be the actual URL up here. So for instance, when we go to OCL, clickety clack. Also apologies for any other sound in the background. I'm having some work done on the house, so it goes. Alright, so our reports, announcement, memos. So this page is simply in this name category called memos. The .cfm is added automatically. For name, they don't specify. You can't use spaces. If you do, it's going to have a dash in it. You can't use special characters like an ampersand or a exclamation point. Don't do that in the URL regardless. Don't do camel case either. So if we wanted to be like test page, don't. That's called camel case, where the second word is capitalized for no space. We're going to go with example home for an example home page. Now the common spot title is going to be the title whenever we're searching inside this system. This can be perhaps a little bit more verbose and describe better if you have a couple pages that are going to have a similar name. This is where you can really highlight the difference between them. Example homepage. Here you can do spaces just fine. I even think you can do special characters like a exclamation point. Page title is going to be what pops up in this header right here. You'll see these tabs. They'll all have the American University, but the part in front of that bar, or pipe, I guess we call it, will be what appears. So a lot of times this can really just be the same thing across the board. Description. This can be seen on the inside of common spot. So again, if you have similar pages and you want to explicitly describe one, you can do that here. We're just going to give it none. This also might be crawlable. I would need to double check with IT, but I believe it can be crawled and might be able to help with SEO. Unclear how effective that would be, but don't put anything you don't want public in that description. Good rule for the internet overall. It's public no matter what. Alright, so the tier. Home pages need to be tier 2. A majority of your pages are going to be tier 3. But for homepage, there's special elements that we'll add, and in order for it to work with scrolling and sizing, we need it to actually be tier 2 here. You shouldn't have custom analytics code. Hit save. Alright, nice. It's working pretty quick today too. Alright, so up at the top, it says we can define our tier 2 header settings. So there's a couple things that we need to take into account here. Remember, in order to actually define an element, simply click the text there, or you can click this gear, go to new data. If there's already stuff here, you can edit data. So we have two tabs. We can select our school department, university life, for tier 2A only. I don't think we need that. Let's say example homepage. No, we're actually just gonna fill it all out just so we can see what it all looks like. Oh, sur title, nice. Text. Hide the subtitle when in breadcrumb mode. That's funny. Calls to action, I know. All right, the images here have a specific size that they need, and we need two different versions, one for desktop and one for mobile. Again, you should probably be thinking very deliberately about what kind of image you want to use for this, especially since this will be a big banner, kind of a big splash. But pretty much every computer you have is going to come with the software you need in order to edit it. So I'm just using Paint. That's default Windows program. I believe Mac has a similar program to Paint. What was that size again? I need it to be 1310 by 440. All right, so let's make our main one first. We can edit the pixels. We don't want to maintain aspect ratio because this is blank, so we're not stretching anything by doing that. Hey, it's pretty big, huh? So you can see it's a very long, wide image. So you might say, hey Cole, I already have an image, right? I have one that I think is great. Well, you could resize it here as well. Just remember, if you change it without maintaining that aspect ratio, it's going to cut stuff up. So one way that you can kind of fudge this, and this actually brings me, well, let's just make this first. We'll get into the fancier stuff with it after we do the basics. All right, so we're just gonna do test. We'll give it a background color, blue. Aha, got the pixel. All right, and should delete that. So we got a solid blue, and we will give it a, what do we want to draw, people? A tasteful red bar. Look at that, gorgeous. We'll fill it in. And we'll do no diagonal yellow. Our professor always said, you want to make something interesting, add a diagonal line. All right, so we'll just save this. This is going to be, we'll call this tier 2 header desktop example. I'm going to hit save. Great, so I'm going to add my header image. Remember, whenever we do this, we need to do new. Make sure image gallery is default image gallery. Our subsite is unchecked. We have OCL for our destination folder. We have OCL because we're making a page in OCL. If you're in housing, for instance, put in the housing folder. All right, choose file. Let's go to desktop. Where was it? I just named it too. Here we go. Tier 2 header. Upload. All right, alternative text. This is something that is used for accessibility reasons. You must use descriptive text that describes the image. You cannot use words like image, picture, pic, photo, banner, logo. That breaks accessibility. So this is really just kind of an abstract image. So we're going to just kind of put a abstract welcome. We'll just do. So if there's text on an image, you can just do the text. This, we will just use this as a welcome to the example page. I think banner also triggers that, so I'm not going to use the word banner. All right, this is just purely decorative, pretty much. All right, so we now need a 640 by 350. So let's do that. We'll do resize. So another problem with trying to maintain aspect ratio is, okay, which one does it be, right? 350. Oh, okay, well that's not big enough. All right, one thing you can do to get around this is you can try to trim it. So see on that bottom kind of middle area, those numbers changing, that's showing the size. We need this, what do we need? 640 by 350. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Hey, there we go. Alright. So 350. Resize. Just want the height to be 350. Weird. So you can get into this little game where you're trying to make it perfect, but we're not going to worry too much about that. Save as. This is going to be mobile example. So this is one of the things with home pages. The images, they look nice, but it's best to come prepared, because otherwise you can kind of hit a roadblock right away getting this set up. Alright, mobile example. We'll add that. Come to the example home page. Great. Of course, you're probably going to have a picture or something, so simply describe what's in the picture, and we'll do that. Okay, great. This should be enough to get us started on our home page. So, great. University life. I don't have the title and subtitle. If we leave that undone. There we go. So it's going to say campus life because it already detects where I am. So, this is one example of the header page. Now there's another example that people really like, and it's called a hero image. And so hero, I don't know why it's called that, but basically with web pages, a hero kind of refers to something that goes across the top. So you can see similar stuff, subtitle, the subtitle, title, text. So we'll just say this is example, homepage, message. Interesting. What I'm interesting about is the no HTML, 2 line breaks, hitting enter twice. So a lot of people have said, hey Cole, I don't like it whenever I say hello. Welcome to the example homepage. Oh. For OCL, CMS users. So normally whenever you hit enter once in the text block area, it gives a line, like a full line break. That's starting a whole new paragraph, because in HTML the paragraph creates that full break. Otherwise, a single line break requires shift enter. This has the HTML stripped out, so you can just hit enter once and it works for you. So people really like to use this hero element because you can actually add a call to action pretty easily to it, and it gives you like a little section to be like, hello, welcome, right? So let's go and select, I believe it's going to be the same size as the one that went across, 1310. Oh, so we can just choose. Hit search. There we go, 1310 by 440. It shows us the size of the image right there. So you may already have banner or hero images that work for what you want. So hit save. All right, CTA, call to action. That's just a link. Remember, we need our links to be specific, telling us where they're going to take us. Especially if we have multiple links, and it just says click here. If I am a blind user, my screen reader reads click here. I don't know where here is or where here takes me. So let's say OCL page. Oh, view, visit OCL home. Let's do that. Whenever we insert a link, there's, remember, 2 main ways that we do this. We either are looking on AU pages or registered URLs. You do page, choose from current subsite, or if we're going outside of american.edu, we do the unregistered URL. So let's do this. 2 ways to search for any kind of home page. Either home, we have our example homepage, we have the campus life home. But remember, the HTML files, index is also the name of any home page. So that's a quick way if you're just looking for your home page. Insert, hit save. All right, so you can see how they look a little bit different. Now, clearly we don't want both of these. I think I like the second one better. I think everybody does. Like, a lot of people tend to use that because of the call to action and the text box. Use some improved watermark. You can have multiple images too. A lot of people like to do that to kind of show off a lot of the good photos that they're taking. Just make sure you have good alternative text. We got to make sure we're on top of that. One other thing too, sometimes people will use promotional material for the background of this that has its own text. And then that doesn't work very well with these background headers because, as you can see, they both use a good amount of text, and that will get in the way. So these homepage headers aren't really something that you can just throw something into. You need to be a little bit more deliberate when you're making these, and really kind of consider, okay, what text am I including in the website? Is there anything that's going to get blocked on the image by this text? Yeah. So great. I don't think we need the subtitle, frankly. And I do want to leave this page up as a good example where people can kind of pick it apart and learn how to use it. Great. So the next thing I want us to add is, let's keep it nice and simple. We're going to add some text on the left here, maybe like a little flex promo over here on the right that will link somewhere else, probably to some useful resources. And then we're going to create a flex container with 3 promos. We'll do promo with image just to be fancy. And it's going to take us to a meet the staff page, because a lot of people have to update those elements. An FAQ page, because it's a good way to look at how we use the collapsible element. And then just like a third content page. I'm not entirely sure what we're going to make with that yet. Might take requests for that one. See if we can get through all this in our hour. Just check in on our... Oh, hello. Hi, Karen and Travis. Sorry, y'all cannot see. Let me share my screen. Thanks for hopping into the office hours. Hope it's at least some good background. All right. I'm going to keep... Do y'all have any specific questions out of curiosity? Or y'all just kind of here for the stream?
A little bit of both.
Okay. Well, feel free to interrupt me at any time if you want to talk through anything. Happy to go through any specifics if you have questions.
The only thing that I had that, as you know, we're trying to update virtual resources and things, is on our page, are we able to add like our social media handles and or email on that left panel under our phone number?
Yes. So there's kind of 2 things. If you want it to be permanently added, I'm assuming you want it across all of the student activity or student involvement pages.
Yeah, that would be helpful. That's why I thought about the left side, because I know that is consistent across all of them.
So if you can send me those handles, I can add that for you. Otherwise, you can always add like yourself here. So let's say you do for like the student media page wanted to just add the student media social media or something over here. You can just do that on the page itself. It just won't carry across all the pages.
Okay.
But yeah, send me that information and I can add it to that left nav for you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
That was it.
Great. Cool. Well, I'm going to keep on trucking on this page. All right. So, yes.
You had mentioned in the email that this is going to be posted on YouTube, so I assume like you're recording it and it'll be up there for reference.
It is. We are live now. So, yeah. So,
I watched the YouTube video, but it was delayed a little bit.
oh, yeah, there's a bit of a delay. So if you're on both, I'm sure it's a little of an awkward experience. I am going to also try to make like useful cuts of stuff because I know people really like the images. There's 2 different ways of adding images and that can throw people off. So I definitely want a quick, maybe 3-minute video of that. But yeah, we'll have these recorded and ready for everybody. Of course. Okay. So example homepage. All right. So we got the text block over here. This, especially on home pages, usually just an introduction. Welcome to the OCL Content Managers group. One thing to note, and this goes for all elements, but if you have the name of part of this starred with the red star, that means it's required. So for instance, if I hit save here, it's going to say enter a value for content. So for this, I think I just want to add maybe like a short little introductory paragraph. So I'm going to say, welcome to the Content Managers Group for the Office of Campus Life. Here you can find resources on, and we can add elements that you would normally find in, say, Word over here. And so let's just enter a quick list. So we're going to say making web pages, editing web pages, video guides, and much more, right? And so this will work out just fine. And then one other thing I want to cover is headers, right? I don't really have a need to use headers here, but title and subtitle are always going to be heading one, and whenever we're doing headings, they must descend in order. So usually, I think for my content page, I'm just going to have a bunch of topics that we talk about, and I'm going to use headers to break that up in depth. But just be careful with headers, because that's kind of the easiest way to break accessibility. Headings, we tend to use them for how good they look. We have to use them structurally. They're kind of rungs on a ladder for an accessibility user to move through the page. So when we're done editing, just hit save. This members page. It's a good fancy example. All right, page is refreshed. You can notice again, these gears are going to turn yellow whenever we've edited the content in them. You'll also notice that we got two. We've got the 2016 text block and then the container, which you might be thinking, hey, we already have a container here. So each container contains a container. We've got inception going on here, so it can go deep. You don't do anything with this, so don't get too confused by that one. Another popular element for home pages is using a flex element on this right sidebar. Please do remember, though, that right sidebar is going to go. So here with OCL, we've got a grid layout container, and this is the right sidebar, everything over here. If we're on mobile, this right sidebar is going to go underneath. So let's give it a second to figure out. Here's all of our text, and then here's the memos and the market ad that was on the right sidebar. A lot of times we think, hey, this is up at the top of the page. I want to put a very important link here. That's okay, and that's fine. You can do that, but just remember, about 50% of our traffic is mobile, and it's going to like stack on top of each other. But we're going to go ahead and do that here. So remember, everything that we're going to be messing with needs AU 2016, a redesign on it. We're going to add a flex grid container, and we're just going to put one box on the right hand side. Did I write out what I wanted on it? No, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Okay, flex grid. Remember, we can click on the text or the gear. We'll go ahead and define this guy. You can add a title to it. This is useful across the bottom, and we'll do that there. But here on the right, we're just going to have one box. We'll hit save. And whenever it reloads, you notice it's a little squished. You don't normally have to mess with this setting for most elements, but if we go to choose layout, we'll notice we got a couple options and a flex grid for right sidebar. There's some custom coding IT's done for different elements. There's a lot of different ways we can make stuff work, but you got to make sure it's playing by the correct rules. All right, so now we got two boxes. We've got our grid layout container, right side, and inside of it we got the flex grid. Now we can add a bit of flex content. So if we expand flex modules, I just want to do the promo text only. I really do like it on the right hand side because it's a pretty clean looking element. So if we go to define it, title, UCM marketing guide. This will actually link to the marketing guide, a useful page with logos and color designation and typography. Remember, our call to action label needs to be specific. So let's say, is it UCM guide? And I do not remember UCM marketing. Nope. Creative style guide. Here we go. So if you don't exactly know where to find your page, right? So I need to, through this, select the link that it needs to go to, right? Choose from subsite. I know it's in marketing, right? But I don't know exactly where, what that page title is. You can just go to the page and say, okay, great. I need to look for UCM as a subsite. So we can either do that by dropping down the subsite. I don't love this, drop down system. It's cool to kind of visualize like this is just the website. It's a bunch of folders. But it's not always the fastest, right? Especially for something like OCL where we have a lot of drop downs within it. UCM's connected to the root, so it's not too bad. And luckily resources and guides is right there. But we could search for that if we needed. Remember, you can also confirm it's the correct page. You hover over the name of it. You have the arrow in a box. That pops out, and you can see this page. And like, okay, this is what I want. It'll also, if it's not your page, yell at you. Oh, but we can also see this isn't the page that we want. Although it's a good guide. So let's type in creative style guide. Here we go. See, I'm glad we checked. We'll just make sure creative style guide, all looks good. Great. So we'll use highlighted text, insert link. Let's actually rename this to creative style guide. We'll see if this is too long, because this is something I've run into in the past when helping other folks. You want to be specific and verbose with what the link is, but it can be difficult to fit the whole name in. It does have a pretty good character count, but it can get kind of stuck. All right, this is a pretty solid homepage, right? If we hit preview, nice. We've got our glorious banner over here. We've got a quick list showing what we're going to have. We have a useful link over here, so we can use the proper typography. We want our Adobe Garamond Pro. All right, so let's leave the preview. And another thing I find useful is your homepage is oftentimes for sorting people. It's like, okay, are you a parent? Are you a student, alumni? Are you a student leader? Are you a new student? Are you a senior graduating? Whatever your population is, it's usually helpful to filter. So outside of our entire grid layout, right? Because remember, we don't want text going all the way across the screen because we tend to stop reading after about 80 characters on a single line. So outside of this, we're going to add a flex grid because I want to provide 3 flex elements that help separate where we're going. So we're going to add a container, flex grid container. Okay. Again, let's define it either from the gear with new data or clicking on it. This is just going to be example pages. And we're going to do 3 across the top. So this will give me a header 1. Remember, all title sections of an element. And an element is basically like a text block, a container, a flex element. It's just kind of like an object on the web page. Whenever you create that, this grid title is going to be an H1. So if we do like a header after this, it needs to be an H2 or another H1. But let's add inside these containers now flex modules. So I'm going to add flex promo with image. And it's going to think for a second. Hey. And we'll do that for each of these boxes. This is a good example, actually. We can. Maybe we can't because it's empty. Yeah, so normally you can copy elements. I guess if it's empty, it doesn't let you do that, which makes sense. So we'll just add new ones. Talking's thirsty work. All right, cool. So we got our 3 flex promos. So what did I say we want to do? We want to do an FAQ, a meet the staff. Let's start with that. Meet the staff. We're going to select an image. Let's choose. Let's see what we got available in our OCL little folder. So we got the Cole rules. Love it. Great message, but maybe not for this moment. Yeah, I guess we can do this. Maybe I'll get kind of off-screen fancy and actually whip up something a little more creative than this stuff. Alt text is test. That's not great. Let's actually fix that. So I have text on this image. Your alt text can just be that text. It should be. Now remember, we have about, I think, 80 characters, says right there. We got a pretty tight limit on this. So if you have like a flyer or an advertisement, you can post that on the website, because a lot of times that's how we want to promote that. But you do need to make sure that you provide plain text as an alternative for that as well. So, yeah. Also, I want to make sure, am I sharing the right screen? Okay, yeah, yeah. Cool. Maybe not. Travis, are you now just able to see the screen?
No, I was able to see that, and I saw your like notes timeline of what you wanted to.
Okay, but were you able to see the?
Yeah.
Okay, the actual screen. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Learning all this together. All right. So, back to alt text. Flex promo with image. I'm gonna got 640 by x366 pixels. All right. Flavor text. I guess you could change it to something a bit better, but if it's just the image file name, that's fine. All right. An example page for your office's staff members. All right. You can actually have 2 buttons in these. Generally, I find if you want 2 buttons in these, you also want a third. It's kind of a if you give a mouse a cookie situation with these. So if you need to have more than 2 buttons, use a different element is kind of the solution. Usually 1 button is good for this. So view meets the staff. Oh, and this page doesn't exist yet. So, but this has a red star, right? So it needs a link. So let's just send it to like Google for now. And we're going to hit save. All right. Great. There it is. Beautiful. Remember, with this, you got to make sure it's the right image size. If you need help with that, I'll probably do a tutorial on how to edit images whenever you've never done image editing. I've kind of been doing Paint in my Haggard style so far. There's definitely free software online that helps a lot more. And we'll go through that together. All right, second page. Let's make an FAQ. One thing with acronyms, we do want to define them first and then do like the parentheses FAQ or whatever. I know we love our acronyms and we got a lot of them. So make sure that at least towards the start and once on your page, it's defined. After that, go crazy with the acronyms. FAQ. All right. An example of FAQ. Do an FAQ page. We can do good grammar. FAQ page with collapsible elements. Visit the FAQ. And again, we don't have this page made yet, so we'll just send it to Google. Hit save. Oh, yeah, I might also want an image. We're just gonna do our fine default image. Hey, and use highlighted image. Save. And we'll go ahead and make a placeholder for our content page. Content page, I think we're gonna use lots of headers for our text block. We're gonna add lots of images. I'm gonna show you how to do an alert with the fancy code. And we will video. Let's add inline video. Why not? Maybe I'll embed one of these stream recordings, and it will be very meta. Reminder as well, if this happens, that's supposed to happen. It'll take a while. I'm trying to do these in the morning because basically the server clears out all the old and broken requests at like 3 a.m. I think. And then the morning it's kind of fresh and ready. It's had its cup of coffee. And then towards the end of the day, that means that there's a whole bunch of other requests gumming up the system. So if you have a lot of web work that you have to do, I recommend doing it in the morning because that's when the server is going to be at its best. And I also get the feeling a lot of people are trying to cram in changes towards the end of the day. So the fewer people on the system at once, the faster it moves. Okay. Let's define our third flex promo. So we'll start with the image this time so don't forget. I'm going to do choose. Select our nice little default image here. Like I said, off screen, I'll make it a little bit fancier. So we don't have to do a title. That's funny that you don't even have to do a content. Let's see how goofy this looks. Let's not actually. We'll make it look clean and professional. Content page. This will hold. And you can even do bullet points here. Now remember, a lot of these are pretty limited. 180 characters if there is no title, 70 with a title. I bet adding the bulleted list even messes with the character count more. So just be warned, you don't have a whole lot to mess with here. This will hold text, images, headers, videos. Oh my, let's see if that fits. That might be too much. Visit the content example. And once more, we'll send it to the far internet wastes of Google. All right. So one thing too, people like to do whenever it's taking a while is refresh. You can refresh once you get the error page. And here we go. So the bulleted list indeed does eat up a lot of space. So let's try it with just the text because I think we're good on the character count there. So whole text, images. Let me just break this up. Yeah. Okay, this might be faster actually. Oh. Try to keep my chaotic neutral energy to a low here. Cool. Keep it all matching, looking good. All right, so we have our three flex elements across, and like I said, this is a good way to kind of sort people, especially whenever you have specific populations you're targeting, or if you got specific resources. A lot of our offices, on the surface, you've kind of got big buckets, but then it gets a lot more complicated. We don't have to represent that complexity right off the bat. We can kind of slowly filter them out and try to help them work through it. Now, that being said as well, we're all used to very long pages scrolling on our phones. So don't be scared of a long page. It's pretty normal now. And like 45 to 50% of our traffic is mobile. So, all right, great. We have a landing page. So let's go ahead and make that meet the staff page. That tends to be one of the more confusing elements. It's also one you don't have to mess with often, so it's easy to not remember all the steps. So we'll make a new page, OCL. If you're making just a regular page, tier 3. If it needs to have this big header, it needs to be a tier 2 because of the way that IT's coded this stuff to work for scrolling. Okay. EX staff. Not E-staff. I guess we're all E-staff right now. Example staff page. Staff page. Remember, this one's internal. This is what's external. So whenever you, this is blocking my view. There we go. Be gone. So it says Office of Campus Life. That's because we are on the Office of Campus Life homepage. And so this Office of Campus Life right here, or creative style guide right there, that's what's in this page title field. Description, more for internal use, but honestly, just to be safe, copy the page title. We hit next. It'll think. And it might think for a while. Like I said, we have to be patient with it. Should already have your tier selected, tier 3. You don't need custom analytics code and hit save. All right, blank tier 3. See that we start with a grid layout container and we have a tier 3 header. This is easy to forget about. It's kind of tucked away in the corner. Just click to define it. It's going to pull up the page title that you used, and then you just hit save. It'll think, and that's going to be the breadcrumb. Part of the thing is we try not to use the back button, or we try not to design with the intent of them, a user using the back button. So if they need to get back to the campus life homepage, right there. All right, so staff page, we want to add a staff element. So we can search for profile. Yep, it is profile. Oh man. So already I've made myself a liar. Remember how I said everything you mess with needs to be under the 2016? Not so much for the profile. It'll actually be under profile elements. So we go and insert this element and define custom element data. Oh wow, this looks different already, right? So what we want to do is we want one or more records based on a filter or manually selected. Let's do manually selected, I believe. We'll hit next. All right, so we get this kind of weird field. I'm gonna go search for more records to add, and it's going to have a whole bunch of these. What we really want is a subset of records. You're looking for specific people, right? Let me see if I can't. Oh, too much. All right, so you can look for people by their first name, right? You can do contains, because for instance, if somebody has like a Jeffrey goes by Jeff, and you are searching for Jeff and they're not stored exactly as Jeff in the system, equals doesn't work. So contains tends to help you out. So my first name is Roy. We're going to search by that. Wow, a lot more Roys than I thought there'd be. All right, so we got a Roy Rampmeyer. I can either check, so if I wanted to add a bunch of Roys, right, we could do that. Notice how I've highlighted somebody different. I'm now going to click Use Checked Records, and it should just be me. So I'm going to hit save, and right, I should pop up my beautiful profile picture, all of my information, how to contact. What is this? So the information that is being broadcast here is actually coming from HR's database. You have the ability to mess with that yourself. So if you look yourself up, and I've got a couple guides on this, I'll share it, but we'll go and show this. All right, so search for Roy. Right here, go to view profile, and on the left hand side I'm going to have an option to sign in. This is where you can edit your picture. You can, if you've signed up to teach AUX courses, or if you're an instructor for other courses, you can actually toggle between which title is going to be shown here. So go to edit profile here. Oh, that's a photo from a long time ago. All right, so you can update your favorite spot, your bio. This is where you can change what title it's going to force to show. I know a lot of folks, whenever they signed up to be instructors for AUX, had that happen. Since they were first hired as staff and then hired as faculty, their newest title came up. And so again, if you notice that problem, you can fix it yourself. I can't change it. I also can't upload your photo. You can choose the display. A lot of stuff you can do here. Now, what you can't change is things like your office. So if you move departments or offices, you can't change it here. If you need to change your location or your phone number, that doesn't work either. So hit cancel. If you do want to edit that stuff, it's through the portal. Is that we'll pull up the portal and close some of these while we're waiting. All right, so it's going to be, if you click work at AU, I should have actually looked this up and prepared. Oh, employee contact info right there. So this is how you change your phone number, You can change your house address and stuff, which I need to. I don't live there anymore. So, yeah, that's how you can change other personal data. Okay, so that was kind of a long tangent, but that was all to say, I can't change this stuff for you, but you have the power to change you. Motivational speech time. But what we can do is we can change how this is presented. So if we go to render properties here, I'm sorry, not render, choose layout. Remember how we changed the layout for that grid container on the right? We got all kinds of options, right? Here you do want to do like the 2016, right? So let's do no alphabet, single column. And so you can kind of see it's a little harder now, but in the background, lots of options for this. There we go. So if you're making a new staff element, right, you need to, let's step through that again because I got distracted there. Go to profile, profile element. We'll insert that. We'll go to define this. One or more records manually selected and hit next. We'll search for more records. We're going to change this to subset of records. And then we're going to look for like Roy. You can do equals contains, a lot of logical operators over here. You can also search by their last name. And this is all those fields in that database. You can even search by EagleNet ID. And so that's going to be, for me, Rampel M. Hit view records. And that pulls up just me this time. Remember how we had all those Roys? Then we hit save. It's going to come out as a garbled mess because all it's doing is spitting out data to you. We need to tell the computer or the website to interpret that data by going to choose layout. So we go to edit this, choose layout, and then however you want it to appear. And that's a staff page. So what I'll probably do is I might actually populate this with all of the people in my CMS, my common spot user groups. That way you guys can see everybody in OCL who's in it. And I don't know, it's a little clubhouse here. So that's a meet the staff page. Great. One other thing too, we got the submit button in the top right. That just means that our changes here are pending. All these little yellow boxes show that, hey, you've changed this element and you haven't submitted it. We don't want this page to go live, so we're not going to submit any of these changes. But what we can do is we can go back to our other page. But wait, I left it. How do I get back to it? Remember, we can look up. Yeah.
Sorry, Cole. Can you just say that again?
About.
The page not going live and.
Oh, gotcha.
Icons you want.
Yep. So these little yellow boxes here show that there's a change pending and you haven't pushed it to go live. Any changes you make don't go live until you hit submit. But
That's right.
Yep. But I'm not going to make these pages live. Whenever you hit it, you're going to get a message close to this, slightly different, but I've got a different view as the webmaster.
Yeah, that's right.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So if you want to find a page that you've worked on recently, I found honestly the easiest way is this gray bar, go to tools, find. And this looks like I add a link, right? So we got all these pages. I just sort by date. And one click goes to the oldest. We got stuff from 2010. And so, for instance, hey, example homepage. And instead of replacing this page, I can just open it in a new tab. And then I'm good to go. But I'm already kind of stressing my internet with streaming and being on the VPN. So I'm going to limit my tabs. All right, so let's change this to the actual page we made, our promo here. So we can go to edit data. And this goes to Google here, so I'm just going to hit clear. Go to select page. And again, I'm just going to sort by date so I can see, hey, I know I just made that example page. And notice how I have the internal here. I don't think we can see it. Yeah. Unfortunately, unless I look at the live version, but they won't see people visiting this page. They won't see the internal part. They're just going to see example staff page, but nobody's going to visit it because we're keeping it hidden. So insert link for this page. Great. Now we can see, hey, our call to action is going to take us there. We'll hit save, wait for the page to refresh. Good. I'm glad this happened. This happens occasionally. No problem here, but it's easy to panic and be like, where did it all go? Instead, click View, and notice how it gave us the View as Published page. Well, we haven't submitted our changes, so nothing's published. So we need to go back to Work on this page, All Changes. Hey.
All the time.
I know, yeah. Mini heart attacks. And if we actually hover over this button, we can see in the bottom left hand, it says OCL/X staff for our example staff page. And again, we get this view because it's trying to go to a page that isn't published. If we go to work on this page, we can see it is in fact the page that we were working on before. Great. All right, so let's go ahead and make the FAQ, and I think that might be all I got time for today. We'll do another new page under OCL. Again, we'll hit next, tier 3, because it's just a regular content page, and we're going to do EX, for example, FAQ. Example, FAQ. Remember, the page title, that's external facing, so let's go ahead and actually type out frequently asked questions. Because that's sort of public facing. For the description, hit next. Tier 3, looks great. No custom analytics code, and we'll hit save. All right, remember, it's very easy to forget this breadcrumb bar. Do that. Example, frequently asked questions. We'll go ahead and add a text block. Usually, sometimes we just want to like add stuff to the page. Like, I just have this information. I want to get this out here. No, normally, I'm all about that. I'm a very utility kind of guy, but we should always have at least some kind of text block introducing the page. You don't always have to have a title here, but we need something in the context box. An example of design. You know what? We might actually run over today because I do want to show both of these. All right, so there's two methods for adding frequently asked questions. We can do collapsibles, which can be useful, especially if you have really dense, detailed answers to questions. So for instance, if you maybe need some subcategories of stuff, or if you want people to still be able to scroll through your page pretty easily, collapsibles are a nice, clean looking way of that. Of design for questions using collapsibles. The second method we're going to use after this is actually going to go into code, but it's pretty simple and it's a way to jump through the page. You've probably seen that. Using collapsibles. Yep. So we'll just announce that, and then we will insert new element. This is under the redesign area, and it's the 2016 collapsible content. You've probably seen this on pages because it's just useful. So here we can select the color for it. Let's go and go blue. We'll do our question here in the header text because that's going to be visible from the outset, and you'll see what I mean in a moment. How do I log in to CMS? Make sure you have been granted access. By call ramplem@american.edu. Then log into the campus VPN. I'll link to instructions later on that, and then visit cms.american CFM. Great. So a couple links that we'll want to add here. Email, for starters. I can just copy this. I can click on this chain link with the pencil icon. And under here, we've been doing the page unregistered. You also have email here available. So we just paste in the email and hit insert link. Voila. All right. So this is kind of a funny gotcha. It's an AU web page, but we don't have it linked to anywhere in our internal system. So instead, we're going to have it as an unregistered URL. I've also had trouble finding the coronavirus page. This may very well be user error, so I've used that for a couple links. I'm sorry, OIT. Don't get me. But yeah. So this is our first FAQ. Let's hit save. Great. So this is our collapsible element. and we have this click. Now it's really cool. You can have a bunch of these. 2 notes for that. Please keep the color consistent unless the color is being used to signify anything. The example, I'm probably going to say this every webcast I do. My example is like a stop sign. We've got 3 very unique methods for identifying a stop sign. It says stop on it. But let's say I don't speak English. Well, it's red and it has a unique shape. So we have 3 different visual methods of indicating stop. So the color here needs to say something. We can't just be like, I just wanted to switch it up. It needs to be, okay, let's say you have like a bunch of FAQs for students, and then below that staff, below that parents, alumni. Maybe group those by different color. That can be useful. Just for looks isn't really a good justification, unfortunately, for a lot of web stuff. So this is a good way to add a bunch of questions. I'll probably actually populate this with questions that I get and stuff that might link to something helpful. But for now, let's actually go to the second method for adding FAQs. So we're going to add another text block, and we're going to stay in this text block for the rest of it. So let's actually go to method 2 FAQ. Yeah, sure. This is a code, an alternative to collapsibles. It uses anchors. I found it easier to use code in order to actually make this work. You can do something like use this anchor element and then link to that. I keep running into errors every time I do that, so I'm going to recommend the code. I'm also going to check myself later and test this to make sure it's not user error for the anchors, and that perhaps that's going to be a better way. Let's say question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4. And I'm adding these because I want to create some space so that way these can jump. One thing you may have seen on a whole bunch of websites is lorem ipsum. Basically, it's, I don't know why, but we have decided that for web stuff, if you just need dummy text, this is what you use. So I'm going to copy a couple sentences of this. I'm going to say answer 1. Notice how that only went down 1, right? Okay, so I hit enter, we have a gap. Right, you can see the gap. Or if I hit shift enter, so you hold down shift and hit enter, that gives it 1 space. We're about to look in the code too, so you can be able to see how that's different. So we might also want to do something else to help. Actually, I'm going to skip that. I'm going to get myself in trouble with that one. All right, answer 2. Oh. Answer 3. Answer 4. We did 5, right? Let's do that. Okay. One thing too, I like to save if I've added a whole bunch of stuff. I haven't messed with the code yet, but you can click in here, hit Control A. That will select everything in here, and hit Control C. Now, if this fails to save, I'm covered because I've actually copied it all. Great. So now we've got all these, and I want to be able to click on question 1, and it jumps me to here. Click on question 5, and it jumps me to here. And we can even have like a back to top. But what we're going to do here is for each of these answers, I'm going to say ID equals A1. Give it a unique ID. So, perhaps I should back up a bit. Here's how our web page is going to look. That's how it's presented. If I click source, I see around each separate line, I've got this P. That stands for paragraph. So this is how the website receives all of this text, and then it interprets this text to say, okay, this is how I need to style everything. You notice here, P around answer, and we have that line break, which is represented by the BR backslash, and it goes to the end with P. So within this P tag, we can assign a unique identifier called an ID. So do ID equals, open quote, A1. This A1 part can be anything. All you need is the ID equals, quote, name, quote, has to be inside those carets and after the P. This will make a little bit more sense what's going to show, but let's go and add it for 2. And we'll add it for all the rest of them. So I'll simply copy this, It needs to be unique though, so with each one I'm going to just change that number. 4 and 5. Great. Okay, so I've added that here. Now I need to actually add a link. So what I'm going to do is ahref equals #, hashtag, whatever we call it these days. So we've added another unique tag. It looks like a P, but instead we have an A. And instead of ID, we have href. That's how you actually link to a separate web page. If I put Google here, it would go to Google, right? But instead, using the # or the hashtag there, I'm saying, hey, I'm internal. Look inside this page for an ID that equals A1, right? And if we hit source, hey, we see it looks like a link, right? So I'm going to do that for question 2 real quick, and then we will we'll test it out, because it's always important before you get too deep in making changes to test. Again, I'm going to highlight everything, copy, and now I'm going to hit save just in case it fails to save my changes. I've got it copied on my computer's clipboard, and then we can just paste it back in. All right. Look at that. Wow, it jumped there. Question 1. Wow. Okay, let's add it for the rest. And let's say you got a lot of these. Okay, I want to jump back up. All right, so easy way. Let's copy, paste. So 3 /A. And this needs to be 4, 5. Welcome to the glamorous life of coding. It's a lot of copy paste. All right. And let's say, all right, so I want, right? So I'm here. I finished reading. I want a little back to top. That's right there. Send us all the way back. So I also don't want it to be spaced out. Right, so I can go here, right? And then shift back to top. Let's see if we can actually, oh, but here's our problem. We don't have a top. Right? We haven't defined where that is. So let's do this. ID equals #top. Now notice that this doesn't look different. The ID, it's invisible. It's behind the scenes. It's not actually changing anything visible. So let's go here. Let me try to use the system. So I'm going to go to the link. Down here. See, bookmark on current page. Let's go to bookmark. So we can enter it manually. I'm try to just put top and see if that works. Alright. Yeah, this should work. Let me save everything just to be safe. All right. So I do say sometimes things happen. Nope. Yeah. Of course, I'm glad it was helpful, folks. I'll be here every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 10 to 11. It'll be recorded, so if you can't attend live, feel free to watch the recording. Thanks for coming, Karen, Travis. It's good to have you online. All right, so sometimes you get this error page. This is actually different from that preview where comment spot's like, hey, check out your page. So let's hit return to last comment spot. Okay. Great. Yep. So this is what happens whenever I try to use the internal system. Here, refresh. This is an example of whenever you can refresh the page. All right, so let's break that link. Oh, and it's giving us a space. Oh, it's hideous. What have we done? Yeah, add another paragraph there. Just an empty one. This end NBSP semicolon, that's Unicode for a space. What's Unicode? I do not know. That's what happens whenever you don't pluck your eyebrows and like just creates Unicode across the eyes. All right, we're going to do BR but we're going to do a href equals hashtag top. Back to top /a. All right, remember, a tag, that's a link. Href, that says, where's this link going? You can add a website or you can add a hashtag, your spot. Great, back to top /a. Source, we have a back to top. Let's go back down here. Let's copy it. Let's add it everywhere. I'm confident it will work. We got our ID top. I actually want to copy that BR as well. Gonna add that. We're gonna add this. We're gonna add that. Add it like this and that. All right, great. So we should have back to tops everywhere. Great. And again, just because sometimes it pays to be paranoid. Copy everything. Hit save. Wow. I'm going to go down to question 5. Never mind. I'm going to go back to top. I'm going to go to question 4. Or am I? Where am I going? Who knows? So, 2 different methods to make FAQs. This, I think the collapsibles looks really clean. It's great. I think we got 2 issues with that. You need to make it worth the click to actually open this up. And I think people just find this more useful because if you have a lot, and then kind of scroll through, but with this you can have a question. Okay, great. You can have kind of like sub questions in it if you have big blocks of text. Both kind of require a click, but for some folks it's easier to scan this. This is really just up to you how you want to do it. Anyhow, thank you to Travis and Karen for joining me, and this recording will be live. I want to thank all of y'all for tuning in, and as always, if you have any questions, just email